What's up guys, Jess here. In this video I'm going to be interviewing the MP for Mansfield, Ben Bradley, on whether Boris Johnson's leadership has been a success, to why he's backing Kemi Badenoch in this leadership election. What do you think the Conservative Party stands for now? Because it seems like it's changed a lot since 2019, of a party that ran on low taxes on freedom, and due to Partygate, due to lockdown, and the cost of living crisis, it seems that the party seems to have abandoned those principles.
Well, it can be difficult to work out. I think not just recently, but for decades, there's been an extent to which ministers, governments of all colours have kind of reacted to the news, maybe rather than really setting a clear, principled agenda, which is frustrating. And it's not the way I like to work. I admire those who say, this is what I believe in, this is what I want to fight for, and I'll do what I need to do to get there, rather than reacting to what Twitter's saying on any particular day. So I think the way the world has changed in that sense. But I, for one, I'm still very much, low tax, kind of small state, traditional, small C conservative. I think most of my constituents are certainly culturally small C conservative in terms of, this kind of anti-wokeism, I suppose, agenda. I'd like to think that that's the majority view within the wider Conservative Party. I certainly think it is within the membership. We need to make sure that we reflect that in this leadership contest.
Do you think that the Johnson government has been a success, and do you think he left at the right time?
I think it became inevitable in the end. I supported him. On a personal level, I like him a lot. I think in the end, unfortunately, although I also think he was right to say that on some big policy calls, he's got things right. But it became untenable, frustratingly, in the end, when you've got 50 ministers resigning in a day. Nobody can carry on in those circumstances, sadly. I felt always that he had so much potential because he was so different and because he engaged with people in a different way. But that was probably his downfall in the end as well, which is a great shame. But what it does give us now is the opportunity to look forward. And as we've gone beyond kind of last week and the chaos of it all into this new leadership contest, we're looking at the future. We're looking at what the Conservative Party stands for and why, as you say, and a chance to pick candidates who reflect what we believe in.
What can we learn from Johnson's government, do you think? What do you think we should learn for the next leader?
Well, I think, as I say, the people value honesty. People value that kind of integrity and principles. I always refer to this idea of kind of signposts and weather vanes, right? You're either pointing in a direction, this is my values, this is what I believe, and that's where I'm going, or weather vanes that sway in the wind and change for the circumstances. I think, as I say, we've been reactive and we've been weather vanes effectively as government for a long, long time. And what I think Boris maybe proves is that you can't keep everybody happy all the time. And in some issues, you actually, by trying to keep everybody happy, you keep nobody happy. And that's where he got on certain things in the end, as well as some self-inflicted challenges. But as I say, it means we can start a new conversation. And I'm supporting Kemi Badenoch in the leadership contest precisely for that reason, because I think she sets out that clear set of values. She sets out what she believes in, and I think she's got the gravitas to carry it off.
So what does the Kemi Badenoch leadership look like?
So she's laid out her kind of pitch, if you like, and she's addressing fundamental questions, looking very long term at what the country should be, what the government should be, which I like. And I think she's shown in the past, particularly in her equalities role, where she's tackled some really, really difficult, gritty issues that wind people up. She's been very clear in her beliefs and her values and what my constituents would call common sense, right? She stood up for those common sense views and for the majority of the country, even though you get a lot of flack for that in modern politics, and you get the kind of Twitter wrath that comes down on you. She's always been brave enough to do that. But she's made clear that she wants to look at what the government is for, what the state is for, right? And is it overreaching into areas that it shouldn't be? Online harms bill, for example, this week, or it's starting to get involved in free speech and policing all of that. She said she doesn't believe that is right. But looking at how you do fewer things better for people, as much as government has grown and grown, people's satisfaction with it is ever lower because you make all these promises and you can't keep them. So I think Kemi's the only one really addressing that balance. If you want to do tax cuts, you want to keep more money in people's pockets, you're going to have to tell people what it is you would stop doing, what it is you wouldn't pay for anymore. And nobody else has necessarily been kind of upfront enough to tackle that equation.
As her role as Equalities Minister, what did she do? Because currently the culture war, fighting against wokeism, is a massive issue. Like, if you look at the Penny Mordaunt cancellation a few days ago because she said trans women are women. You know, she let down a lot of people, biological women, who feel they want their spaces protected. So how is Kemi fighting against that?
So she's been the Equalities Minister for the last few years. So not just kind of talking about it, but actively doing. And she's really wanted to have an open debate to dig into the details of these policies, which I think is important because we are ever increasingly not allowed to talk about them, are we, in that kind of public realm. You get slated for having a view. But the fact that people are so emotive about it is because they're such important conversations to have and to really grapple with. So things like gender self-identification, for example, exactly as you've talked about there about trans women and women in that whole argument, she was very clear that she's not going to get into a place where she's going to put the majority of women in a compromised position for a minority, and that she wasn't going to just fall over in the face of a kind of shouty Twitter mob. I think that's really important, and I think it speaks to basic values and, as I say, what my constituents would refer to as common sense. She's done that on gender. She's done that on race in particular. And God, Labour don't know what to do with her in those conversations, right? As a black woman standing up for conservative values, it just kind of blows their mind. So I think she's a powerful weapon when she is really brave and outspoken in that space.
How do you think we should combat the cost of living crisis? If you look at Rishi Sunak, he wants to continue. He said it's a matter of when, not if, taxes are cut, but still, he doesn't want to cut tax. Whereas the other candidates like Kemi, they seem to have more of a low tax position. Do you think that's the way forward?
Yeah, well, I think it's really difficult for Rishi to say he will cut taxes, obviously, because he's been the Chancellor, right? So if you're going to do it, you'd have done it to some extent. So I like the fact that Kemi comes from outside and she can bring a different viewpoint. She's not tied to what's happened in the last few years. She wants to cut taxes. She's made that clear, personal taxes and corporate ones. But I think it's right. She's not going to get involved in this kind of bidding war and go, my tax cuts are bigger than your tax cuts. It's not an adult conversation, is it? So she's made that commitment to look at that. And I think that's important. But in order to do that, and again, where I think other candidates maybe are not having this conversation in a sensible way, if you're going to say, I'm going to cut taxes, you also need to say what it is the government's not going to do anymore because you will have less money. And Kemi's the only one broaching that. So to genuinely say, look, government doesn't need to be in all the spaces that it's in. It doesn't need to be doing all the things that it's doing. We should focus on the key priorities for people, like the cost of living, and make sure that we are tackling those things properly. I know she intends to lay out her kind of short-term cost of living agenda in the next couple of days, so I'm not going to usurp her on that. I'm looking forward to that myself. But fundamentally, you've got to tackle that argument around the government and what it's for if you're really going to make a case around taxes and keeping money in people's pockets.
What policies overall do you think matter to the ordinary man? And how do we regain their confidence after Partygate, after how the Tories have handled lockdown, the economy? How do we gain their faith again?
I think it's about, as I say, honesty and leveling with people. I think the biggest thing that frustrates people, and you hear it all the time in those stereotypes of politicians, you say one thing and you do another. It's one rule for them and another rule for us. And, there are a handful of people in Parliament who paint a really poor picture for the rest of us who are actually largely here trying to do something good and to crack on and support our communities. We need to rebuild that connection and that sense of a relationship between government and people, the right kind of relationship where we're not promising to do everything for everybody, and if we can't, we're honest about why, and we actually talk about some of those things that matter to us. There are some words that seem to have become almost dirty words for Conservatives, don't they, in recent years? You're not allowed to utter deregulation and privatisation and all these things that are important parts of debates that we just don't talk about. And people recognise that. You do things that you won't even talk about. You're never going to build that integrity and that support from people, are you, if you're not willing to justify what it is you do? So I don't think it's difficult. It's just about having a really open conversation in the modern world. It's not like you can hide these things. Twitter leaks and tells everybody everything, so you may as well be upfront about it in the first place, about what it is you do and why. And over time, and it will take time, you can rebuild that relationship with people, I think.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment and subscribe. Let me know what you think. Are you Team Kemi? Let me know in the comment section. I'm Jess Gill and this is Reasoned. Thank you. Goodbye.